the game of the week, the game of the year, with possibly the catch of the year. And the Buffalo Bills go down by 3 to the Minnesota Vikings, who, again, the power rankings speak for themselves. You guys had the Vikings pretty high, so you guys had the respect on them. But the Bills, Josh Allen played, bro. Tom doesn't think that he should. He did play, and he played pretty fucking good. I have, no complaints for the Bills. I don't see them dropping much in my rankings coming up. But what did you guys, what was your, I think we know, again, favorite plays of the game might be the JJ. But give me some thoughts on the game.
Game of the year. I mean, that's all I can say. We probably watched every minute, as much as we could of that game. But that was just it was a good showing. And all it did was show me that the Bills are not invincible. They are the Miami Dolphins. They're the Miami Dolphins, and I mean, until they get back some of those key guys, I think, like you said, the Dolphins are above them.
Yeah, I do got the Miami Dolphins sitting above the Bills. They got that head-to-head win. They now have the Dolphins, I think, are 7-3 now, to where the Bills are 6-3. But the Dolphins are ahead, and they're going to stay there. Buffalo, I don't know if I'm moving Kansas City, but Buffalo, man, I think this game, as a Philly fan, it hurts me to say, but if the Eagles weren't to do what they're supposed to do and they didn't make the Super Bowl, I feel like this game could have been a Super Bowl preview. And the game that we got, it felt like a couple years ago, we thought it was, and it didn't happen. The big, what was it, the Rams and Chiefs game? They put up like fucking 90-something points or more. This felt like that. And it didn't disappoint. I did think there was a chance that it would disappoint because of the Josh Allen, but he played spectacular with the exception of a couple boneheaded mistakes. Kirk Cousins made some boneheaded mistakes, but Kirk outdueled Josh. He did. Their stats are very similar. Kirk Cousins went 357 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and Josh Allen went 330 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and he had that crucial fumble that really sealed the game. That was the game, that fumble. You take that, you hold on to that ball, and you push. Dude is strong as shit. He's the strongest quarterback in the league. Maybe not pound for pound with our boy Jalen Hurts, but I don't know how that happens, bro. He's the reason, not the reason, that would be unfair, but Josh Allen made some critical turnovers. He cost his team a win, and I feel like he's not the favorite of the MVP race anymore. I try to cut him slack because he's hurt. But,
and the only thing that worries me about Josh Allen is that his 2 interceptions, they were in the red zone. So that's the thing that's really confusing me, because again, Josh Allen, he usually doesn't make mistakes like that, but the past 2 games, he has 4 red zone interceptions. Now, again, I don't know if this is because of his injury or it's just because he's just not, reading the defense right. But I seen the one pass where he threw it right to, a defender. Like there was no space to get it to his receiver, and he threw it right to his defender.
Yeah, but we seen the same thing last week with Josh Allen on that opening kickoff.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He's making a lot of plays where it's like they're head scratching.
To piggyback off of Ryan, Kirk Cousins is known to make a lot of bonehead mistakes. Like you would think, like after watching Josh Allen, he doesn't make these type of bonehead mistakes. So I'm not going to say it's not the injury. I don't know if it's in his head, if it's playing a part, but I mean, they even have that type of injury, and like I said, like I thought, like they possibly risked. I mean, it's unheard of for NFL players, let alone quarterbacks, even have Tommy John surgeries. And that was the route that it was going, that if it gets any worse, that was the type of surgery he was going to have. And for him to go out there, I mean, I guess it was a must-win game every game moving forward is a must-win game for Buffalo now with Miami. But then to piggyback off of the MVP, I mean, I would put Tua now above Josh Allen, still behind Jalen Hurts. But Tua is definitely up there. I mean, he's 7-0 as at the start of this year. And, I mean, he's putting up unreal numbers, let alone he has two of the best receivers in football.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, you can't discount Patty Mahomes either.
No, not at all. You never can.
But I mean, and of course, you're never going to give it to a receiver. Like if any receiver would have got it, would have been Cooper Kupp last year, and he didn't even get it. But I mean, Justin Jefferson is spectacular. And Ryan, he mentioned to me when we were watching the game, the draft pick that they traded Stephon Diggs for that they got Justin Jefferson out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's not a more even of a trade that you could get, I mean,
that trade worked extremely well for both teams. Buffalo's the Super Bowl favorites coming into the year. They were at the AFC Championship on the doorstep last year, and Diggs was a big part of that. And Justin Jefferson looks like the best young wide receiver in the league.
With the Minnesota Vikings, how they're a complete team that, like, one thing about the Vikings are they know how to draft wide receivers, like drafting Randy Moss, Stephon Diggs, and now Justin Jefferson. I mean, that's 4 game-changing top receivers of could be all time. I mean, let alone what Justin Jefferson and Stephon Diggs does.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, honestly, and they do good at that. And they you could tell they know the good receivers when they drafted Justin Jefferson over Jalen Reagor. When you see the video where they're in there and they're like, Philly took Reagor, and they're just laughing. They're like, oh shit, like they knew from the rip. And I'm glad you brought Diggs up because that trade, that was something we talked about. They both in this game. Diggs versus Jay Jetta. They both seen 16 targets. So both teams were like, yo, this is going to be a battle. We're getting our guy involved. So they both seen 16 targets. Stephon Diggs has 12 catches, 128 yards. He doesn't see the end zone. To where Justin Jefferson had 10 catches, 193 yards, and he got a touchdown. So that battle was, crazy. And then coming into the game, I had said that my person that I was going to watch was Gabe Davis, and he showed up. He got one in the end zone. He had, I think he had 5 catches, 90 something yards or 83 yards, 93 yards. One.
Yeah, 6 catches. Yeah.
Okay. So he showed up, and Buffalo just, hats off to them. They play good, but Minnesota, they made more, they made their mistakes. Their mistakes kind of didn't feel like it hurt as much. Josh Allen threw a pick into the end zone. Again, he fumbled on the 1 yard line, which led to a touchdown. We talked about that. It was he throws the pick in the 4th. He's throwing a ball into the end zone, and it gets picked up. It gets picked off. That was the Patrick Peterson one was in overtime. It was one before that.
Yeah,
and that leads the Minnesota going down the field, and that's the CJ Hand touchdown. And they missed the extra point, and that all played into us getting into overtime. But it just showed between that got them back into the game. I think that's the one that might have put them ahead, and then the one that got them back into the game, and then the one where he fumbles on the 1 that got them the lead. Like, you had just put the game away. They said it on there. Do you at that point, do you almost take a safety and just trust your defense? But I don't agree with that because you got all they need is a field goal at that point, and I don't think that's a good thing to do. But
I mean, we could talk about this all day, but that officiating was terrible.
Oh yeah.
I mean, for that PI not to be called in the red zone, which I mean, it was a clear and obvious. He had his hand around his hip, and then to not stop the game on a critical catch to where Gabe Davis secures the first down.
Yep. And
he secures a bunch of yardage for the field goal, when in all reality, he didn't secure the ball. He was out of bounds.
No.
So now let's just fast forward. What is the NFL going to do about this? To where if this is a playoff game, are they going to stop the game? Or because somebody's doing that hurry up, they're just going to let it slide by?
I was under the assumption that in that situation, and that was different. He got out of bounds, so the clock was going to be stopped. So they had plenty of time to just say, "Hey, this is a big." They're running the fucking ball's out of bounds, and they're running a hurry up.
Right.
That tells you they know, or maybe he winded his arm and it was actually still in. But either way, it's I don't know. I don't want to make excuses for Minnesota. They won. They don't need the excuses, but big reason why Buffalo was there was definitely that missed call. That Gabe Davis, bro, that was a terrible miss by the refs. And I think that could have really came back to change. It should have. That should have changed the game. That could have changed the season for both of these teams. Now, I don't think this loss hurts too much for either of them, but I mean, Buffalo's now, they went from looking unstoppable. They lost 2 in a row, and it's not looking good in Buffalo. I mean, they're still a good team, but you got to pick. These wins can't just pile up like this.
Yeah, and I agree. Like I said, this was probably the game of the year. That Justin Jefferson catch is maybe the catch of the century. That was just a crazy ass catch, like better than an Odell Beckham catch. But again,
that's definitely arguable.
Definitely both of these teams will be in the playoffs. And I mean, even Stephon Diggs, he had a nice catch in that game too. There was 2 great catches in that game.
All momentum switches on Dalvin Cook's 81-yard touchdown run.
Oh yeah, for sure. And
Bro.
that just plays that momentum.
I mean, that opened up everything.
Momentum changes the game. Momentum is everything.
Yeah, that Dalvin Cook, that was my thing. That was my thing coming into this game from Minnesota. I felt like Dalvin Cook had to get going, and he did. He put up a big game for them. He was clutch when he needed to be clutch. That touchdown, again, that was the one they were down. It was 27-10 when he popped that touchdown. That was the one that got them feeling like if they don't score there and Buffalo gets a chance to put up another 3 or another 7 and put you down 30-10 or 34-10, like Buffalo's a really good team. You're not going to catch up 34-10 at that point. And they didn't. They only scored 33 points. But they held them just close enough to where they let Dalvin cook. They let him cook, and it was pretty cool. It was a brother battle. It was James Cook and Dalvin Cook. James actually got a touchdown that got called back, so that would have been cool to see them both kind of score there. But that touchdown, man, that was his one big pop of the game. But that's all he needed. That's all he needed. It was clutch, and then he kind of turned it over to Kirk, and then the defense stepped up and they completed the comeback. It was great to see.
If for any reason the Eagles happen to lose to the Washington Commanders tomorrow,
yes,
will the Vikings be ahead of the Eagles, barring that they lost to us because they beat, a couple better teams than us?
So my rhetoric for everything, I thought coming into this week, I thought the Chiefs were better than the Bills, just the current state of the team. And I didn't put them above the Bills because the Bills have the head-to-head win. So I think Minnesota, now if the Eagles were to drop 2 and Minnesota were to still only have 1 loss, then that's a possibility. But I don't give a fuck if you beat the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, and then the Dallas Cowboys back-to-back, and we beat the Texans, the Steelers, and the fucking whoever. We beat you head-to-head, and we whooped your ass, and we embarrassed you. No, they don't go ahead of Philly. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably toggle between them two too, the Chiefs and the Vikings. But I mean, Kirk did his thing today to go into Buffalo and throw for 357 yards. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, barring the 2 interceptions he had a touchdown, and he didn't make the mistakes when it counted. That's what I was really looking for.
And
he
Josh
didn't make mistakes when it counted, and Josh did. So I mean, that was the huge thing for me.
I just want to see the Buffalo Bills with a healthy defense. I mean, missing Tre'Davious White and Jordan Poyer was a big loss for them today, but still no excuses. They still had a chance to win the game, and they technically should have won the game with their lead. So
yeah. What teams I just don't understand is if you're having success on the ground, why you go away from it? I mean, Devin Singletary had 13 carries, 47 yards. You should have just kept running the rock. But I mean, they had so much faith in Josh Allen, even being injured. I mean, I would have just kept running the rock if I was them and just managing the game more.
Yeah. Like I said, he had 43 attempts. He had 6 carries. Now his 6 carries, he got some chunks. He got 6 carries for 84 yards, and Dalvin Cook's big. He had 109. He had 119. And Dalvin's came mostly on one run, that 81 yarder that Tom mentioned. But Josh Allen, his longest was 25, so he broke that defense a couple times. So for him to touch the ball at 43 attempts, 6 rushes, almost 50 times, and then Devin Singletary gets it 13 times, and Cook gets it 5. Yeah, I agree. They probably should have ran a little bit more. But hindsight's 2020, right?
Yeah, and what's crazier to me, is they allowed him to run, and he didn't slide when he was running. This guy's injured, and you're taking on linebackers and defensive backs and safeties who are licking at their chops to hit you, knowing that you're injured too. And he will not slide for anything.
He just did what he always does.
These quarterbacks
injured.
I know, I agree with you, but I'm just saying, like, in his mindset, I'm not worrying about this injury. I want to win. I'm not changing my game. I mean, he was still throwing downfield.
So I think Lamar has obviously changed the game for quarterbacks, in which we look for these quarterbacks that can run, right? Everyone's becoming a little bit more mobile, to where Josh is also, I feel like Josh Allen, he's not as shifty as Lamar, but when it comes to making the decisions on when to take off, I mean, Josh Allen's a beast on the ground too, and he lowers his shoulder and he goes in, and you seen Kirk Cousins do that today. He got inside the 5 and Kirk lowered it. You seen fucking Justin Fields looked like a cannonball. They shot him out and he lowered his shoulder and cracked somebody. Dude, I was like, this dude is too tiny to be doing that. But it's showing these quarterbacks are not afraid. It's not the old days where the quarterback is just protected, where everything's a slot. Like, they're going for it. They get close to the end zone, and I got to feel like Josh Allen's a big reason for that, because you see every week, bro, he's not afraid of it. He's tough. He gets the love. I don't feel like you can hate. The only way you can hate Josh Allen is if you're in the AFC East. Patriots, Jets, Dolphins. You got to hate him if he's in your division. Like, if he played for Dallas, I'd fucking hate him. But outside of that, as a football fan, he's such a fun, like, he's like Mahomes. Like, it's hard to hate these dudes. They're humble. They're not, and they're just monsters. And I think that he's having a trickle down effect on some other quarterbacks. And it's crazy because, again, Kirk did that shit too, bro. Kirk lowered his shoulder and went crazy.
And I mean, they say that history repeats itself, because I mean, you're saying back in the day, quarterbacks, obviously not back in the day where these dudes were, getting fucking brought down by their face mask, horse collar, and it was all that shit was legal. I mean, you're talking about more of the past, so you don't get ripped, because that's the first thing people were like, oh no, back in the day, them dudes, they were getting cracked too. So, but like, again, the history repeats itself, and I guess these quarterbacks are just they're tired of being the red shirts, and they're ready to take on some contact.
So, question D, or actually, Tom, I got a question for you. So, who at this point, and I feel like I might have you figured out as far as answer wise, who do you think's the leading candidate for MVP now that Josh Allen has, in the last 2 weeks, in my opinion, fallen out of that number one lock hold?
I mean, before the number one MVP race is Jalen Hurts.
You think so?
And that's solely because, I mean, you got to put in the account that the most valuable player without Jalen Hurts, the Eagles aren't 8-0.
I agree.
With Josh Allen, the Bills now have, 3 losses?
Yeah, but Josh isn't the guy that I'm looking at. I'm looking at Mahomes.
Yeah,
whose
that's
team
why
lost to the Bills.
2 losses.
He does, but his stats are just overwhelming. He leads in pass yards. He leads in touchdowns. He leads in. He's second in QBR, I think it was. I put the stats out last week, and I mean,
bro, this guy, this is a guy that's thrown over 30 times a game too. What makes it interesting?
Yeah,
and Jalen Hurts is number 1 in the standings.
I agree there too. So I do think it's them. And then Josh is still in the top 5. But
no, if you were to ask me, I personally think it's Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, and Tua.
I agree.
And I won't say his last name because I will butcher it. So I'm just going to keep
going.
Yes. So Tom, real quick, it's funny because I'm trying to keep the timestamp so I know when to go back and clip, right? And when we started talking about the MVP, when you went on to say Jalen, I looked at the time and the time was 41:33. I swear to God. I'm not lying. Go Birds. Tom Brady. Tom Brady lost to a backup, and Tom Brady
he dropped a crucial pass in that. It's something about Tom Brady and getting the ball. It just doesn't work with him right now.
I don't know why you try to throw the ball to Tom Brady, which let's segue right into the Bucs and the Seahawks. It was a good game. The Bucs. I felt like last week, and I said to D, I felt like last week was the game, and I said it last week on the podcast. Last week was the game for the Bucs when they win that game against LA, the team that eliminated them from the playoffs. The team they exercise those demons. That's the win. I don't give a fuck what their record is, what the Rams' record is, and the state of their team. That's the win that flips the season on its head and says, "Let's go." And then they go into Germany today, and they beat the Seahawks, who looked like one of the better teams in the league up until this point. And I think that, obviously they slowed down in the second half, and the Seahawks, they were able to get back into the game. That felt a little Philadelphia Eagle-ish, where kind of the Eagles sometimes they get these leads and then teams battle back. But Tom, you said we all three said the GOAT was going to be the one to run the table and get to the playoffs between him and Rodgers, who both got big wins today. Tom, is this the game right here where you think that maybe the Bucs start trending in the right direction towards being a powerhouse, or is this just hey, you beat up on the Seahawks, who nobody really believes in?
No, I mean, the only thing about the Seahawks is I feel like when Geno, I mean, I don't know the statistics on the Seahawks this year, but can Geno Smith pull you back into a game when you're down double digits? I don't know. Because, I mean, he started to come back. He made it a game in the second half, towards the end of the game, which one thing I just found out, like watching the game and I didn't know, is one, that was Tom Brady's first interception this year that he threw today, even though how bad they're playing. It was a terrible pass. I mean, it's just something you never see Brady do. And he was 499 in passing attempts without an interception, where he was 3 behind breaking Aaron Rodgers' record of 502
when he threw that pick
until he threw an interception.
Wow.
But to answer your question, I don't know if there'll be a powerhouse team, but I think right now they're going to pull away with the Saints did not look good at all. The Falcons, they're going to pull away. I think the Panthers now's the time they pull away with the division.
I agree.
It depends on who they're going to get a home game in the playoffs because they're going to win a division. It just depends on who they play, whether it's going to be the Giants or the Cowboys. I don't know who they're going to have to play. I'm assuming all 3 teams. I'm assuming that the Eagles obviously are going to win. They're going to win NFC.
Yeah, but Tom, you're ducking the question.
What?
You're ducking his question.
No, I do not.
Answer the question.
No, I do not think they're going to be a powerhouse team that goes anywhere.
There you go. There you go.
But I think they can win a playoff game, depending on who they play.
Again,
if they play the Giants, they'll win. If they play the Cowboys, I think the Cowboys win.
Well, tell me the last time Tom Brady beat the Giants in the playoffs, and I will wait for you.
You're going to compare Eli Manning to Daniel Jones?
I am talking about Tom Brady's. You're moving goalposts. Tom Brady versus the New York Giants in the playoffs. Tom, what's his record? I'll give you. Yes, 0-who? 0-2. So don't tell me the Giants. If you would have said the Cowboys, I agree. But
I have no faith in the Giants. I mean, it doesn't matter, but I have no faith if they play the Giants to go into Raymond James Stadium and winning.
So you just think that the Buccaneers beat up on the Seattle Seahawks, they'll win a division because their division stinks?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, we probably all agree with that. Are they a powerhouse? I don't think so at all.
I don't agree with that.
Nobody's scared of the Bucs.
I think that I talked about Chris Godwin. I said Chris Godwin had to get going. I said that he would get his first and second touchdown of the year this year in this game. He only got his first, but we had a Godwin sighting. We had a Julio sighting. Julio's play was nasty. That wasn't just him being wide open. That was him making a play. I haven't seen a play like that from Julio, and that was awesome to see. And then Tom, you talked about the Bucs. And Brady not throwing an interception in all them attempts. Well, the Bucs defense they forced their first turnover in 6 weeks, and it's been a rough go for them. But this is a game where now they got 2 games back to back where they played pretty good. They're starting to they forced a turnover. They're getting pressure. Devin White showed up today. He had a sack. Like they're playing timely defense, and I'm telling you, Brady got date yo. I think that team is going to come back from Germany. They're into the bye. They exercised the Rams. They went to Germany and beat up on the Seahawks. Now I think they could be 4th, 5th, maybe 6th best team in the NFC, but I think they're trending in the right direction. I do think that they're going to win more games the remainder of this season than they'll lose.
But do you think they're a powerhouse?
So I think a powerhouse is right now, the only 2 powerhouses is Minnesota and Philly. What would you call a powerhouse team? Somebody that finishes with 12 plus wins, or like how many?
I would probably put it like in that range, 12, 13 wins plus.
Okay, so I'll give it to you straight. Bucs are 5-5. They've gotten to 500 now. So the best they can do is 12-5, right? They got Cleveland next week, followed by the Saints. I think that's 2 dubs. Or they got Cleveland. I'm sorry. They got Cleveland in 2 weeks. I think that's 2 dubs. They got the 49ers, which that's a tough game. That is a toss-up game. Then they got the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Panthers, and the Falcons. I think that's 4 consecutive wins. So I think they can go 7. They can go 1, 2. They can go 6-1 for the rest of. No, it would be 7-1.
7-1.
There's a game I'm missing here, but
no, it'd be 6-1.
yeah.
You're right.
Yeah,
6.
Yeah,
I think they could go 6-1 realistically with a chance. I think 5-2 to 7-0 in that range. I think that's where they're trending. I would say 6-1 to be safe. And if they go 6-1, bro, they would be 11-6. They would be outside the 12-win range, but they would probably have more wins than any NFC West team. They would have more wins than every other team in the NFC, with the exception of Philly and Minnesota. Well, and the Giants are 7-2, and the Cowboys are 6-3. So them two are right there. But I still can't fucking have faith in the Giants.
Do you think they're going to finish with more wins than the Niners?
The Niners are 4-4. The Bucs already have more wins than yes.
No, I meant you said that they're going to finish with more wins than everybody in the NFC West. Do you think by the end of the season they're going to finish with more wins than the Niners?
All right, so let's go through that. The Niners got the Chargers, which they're already down 7-0. They got the Cardinals and the Saints. I think that's 2 dubs. They got the Dolphins. That's a toss-up. Followed by the Bucs. That's a toss-up. So that could be 2 losses right there. Or it could be 2 wins. Depends on what 49ers team shows up. I think they have more losable games on the record. So I'll say yes. I think the Bucs will finish with a better record.
I agree with that.
So I think the Bucs could be 3-4 NFC best record range, which would put them at the 3 seed, because the only other teams that they're going to battle is the Giants and the Cowboys, and they would both be 2 seeds, or they would be wild card teams in this scenario, because of course the Eagles 15-2, 16-1, somewhere in that range.
So let me ask you a question: who would you rather see in the playoffs at the current state, the Buccaneers or the Minnesota Vikings?
I would rather see the Vikings. No, I want the Bucs. If I could have them both, I'll take them both, because I think that the Eagles match up good. But if I got one game to get to the Super Bowl, give me the Bucs. I mean, give me the Vikings. I'd rather go up against Kirk Cousins in a nationally televised game versus Brady. Brady always got a chance, no matter who's around him. Kirk's on a very nice run, but we fucked him up in week 2, and our team's only getting stronger, and so are they. But there's nothing that they show me in that week 2 game that makes me think they can mess with us.
I agree.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that too. But like this game, it was really close. Geno Smith made it a game at the end. He looked in the first half, he looked a little flustered. And like I said before, what I noticed about Geno this year is that he looked more poised in the pocket. And today he kind of panicked in the red zone. I believe it was in the second quarter when he fumbled. He just like kind of did this weird thing where he just was about to think about running and got stripped. And that was a huge part of the game, I think, because I think if they score there, it definitely might have been either their game. It would have been more of a toss-up game than what it was. But I like to see Tampa running the ball now. I didn't like that PJ Walker got stopped because, I like him a lot. But, I mean, he only had, 17 yards, 10 carries. That's kind of tough. Kenneth
PJ quarterback for the.
I knew who he was talking about. That's why I didn't want to correct him.
Me neither, but you said something.
You're disrespecting Rye's boy, so he has to correct you.
Yeah,
I like Kenneth Walker too.
I know, but that's Rye's boy.
I told a story where I didn't even know who he was, and then my dad called me one day. He was like, "Yo, turn on this Michigan State game," and he was just fucking just bulldozing people, balling out. But I would like to see him get going more. And I think if they get the run game going, their defense they weren't that good in the first half, but the second half they definitely stepped it up.
They did, and there was another young running back in this game that looked really good. Rashad White, 22 carries, 105 yards, and he did not have a catch. I thought I had seen him get a catch.
Arm was brutal.
Yeah. That was the big reason why I wanted to make sure I brought him up. Tom was all over that stiff arm because I didn't see it in live time.
The one on Quadre Diggs?
Yeah, that was nasty. So I told you earlier, that I had picked the Lions to win by 1. It was actually wrong. I picked the Bears to win by 1, 27-26. Tom, I thought Tom picked the score and the opponents right. I don't remember what your prediction was, Tom. Do you remember? I know you said 31-30 to one of these games. Do you remember which one it was?
I had it written down, but I don't have the because when I was doing the scores, I was writing them down, but I don't have the piece of paper in front of me.
All right.
I'll just go back. I'll go back and watch the segment of it.
It's all good. So the Lions, man, they come away with the win. Jared Goff played pretty decent, had a pretty high rating, 113.6, 236 yards, one touchdown. Javonte Williams, 16 carries, 59 yards. And in the battle of the St. Brown brothers, because you got a Amon-Ra on the Lions, and you got, I'm not even going to try Equanimus. I don't even think Equanimus seen it. I don't know if he played, but
yeah,
I don't
he did. He had two carries for 9 yards.
Two carries. Yep, I did see. All right. He had no catches. And Amon-Ra kind of took over this game. 10 catches, 119 yards, no touchdowns, but he got 11 targets. And, on the other side, I really can't talk too much about Jared Goff. I'm just waiting for someone. He's like on the Carson train. He's only starting because he's in Detroit. But on the other side, Justin Fields, who I kept saying I want to see more. He showed us more today with his arm. Him and Cole Kmet, they got something going there. Kmet had 4 catches, 74 yards, 2 touchdowns. Fields went 12 for 20, 167 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, right? And on the ground, 13 carries, 147 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So when you put everything together, bro, he is dominating. But I acknowledge that. But I also said, if you're going to put up these stats and you want to be taken seriously, you have to win games. Why ain't they winning games? I know that the roster around him is not the best, but he's balling like that, bro. He's got to figure out a way to win these games.
I mean, I don't know what it is, if they're tanking or I mean they trade Roquan Smith. They traded him. They got Chase Claypool, who just can't get it going. That he was probably Pitt's number 1 receiver at one point. I don't know what it is. Obviously, it's their defense. Their defense stinks because they let up 31 points. They let Detroit get 31 points. Miami put up a shitload of points on them last week. So it's definitely the defense. I see them drafting a lot of defense this year. But I feel like he's in these games like how Derek Carr is all the time. It's always coming down to the fourth quarter, last drive. And it just might be he's young. He just, he can't get it done. And then when he does, put up some points to get a lead, the defense just folds.
Yeah, they did strip a lot of that defense out. I was actually, as you were talking about the people they traded, I was looking up Robert Quinn to see when this dude was playing. And I don't find anything. There is something that says he wasn't too thrilled about playing because of how the bye weeks worked out, that he would have to play 18 games this year. So maybe they let him sit out the last game, but he hasn't. He was active the first week in Philly. I didn't see him last week. But yeah, that just kind of brought that to my mind. So
I mean, again, just touching on Jared Goff real quick. So, I mean, he was with the Rams. He had a pretty decent, successful season when he was with the Rams.
Yeah,
like are quarterbacks like him and Carson Wentz, are they just like products of offenses?
I think that Carson was unknown. I think he got a lot of hype in the beginning, and out of nowhere, he played at a small time college that just dominates inferior opponents, and he got a lot of love for that. And he came in and he got with the right system. He caught fire, and everyone named him as the next. In Philly, we did it. I bought 3 of his jerseys. Everybody in Philly was just so excited. To where the other side, I don't feel like even the year that Jared Goff took the Rams to the Super Bowl, like both got Super Bowls or both have been to the Super Bowl, even though Carson was hurt. I think Jared Goff was kind of a product of a really good team, to where Carson made the team really good. And I mean, Foles did too, to where Jared Goff had all those weapons around him. That defense was stellar, and he had a good coach, and he was the one holding them back. And Carson eventually got there with Philly. It was a bad roster, but Carson made them better. Jared Goff was kind of holding that team back, and you've seen as soon as he leaves the first year, they won a Super Bowl. So I do think that Jared Goff was a product of a good team. And I believe that now he's fucking up another good team. I know he doesn't, maybe he's not killing them as bad as he could, but he's not winning. He's not doing shit for them. What are they fucking? Are they 1-7 now? 2-7, 3-6.
Three
I'm
and
all over
six.
the
Yeah.
place. 3-6, and I thought they were going to be better than this.
I think
They
it's
won
the
two.
product.
They won two straight though.
I think
Yeah.
it seems like every year, no matter what teams on Hard Knocks, we always expect too much after physically like seeing them in training. I don't know if you guys get the same way, but like I always think, wow, this team, all right, maybe this team's gonna be good. Just like the Lions this year. I watched all the Hard Knocks. I'm like, all right, damn, maybe this team's gonna be good. Maybe this team's gonna win 8, 9 games. And now we're fucking fooled. And it's the New York Jets that completely turned it around.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna be completely honest and kind of share something. I have never now I've seen the clips that go viral and clips that might pop up on YouTube, but I have never watched a single episode of Hard Knocks. And I feel like maybe a failed football fan because of it, because
No.
everybody raves about it. But I swear to God, the times that I find to watch it is like late at night on a weekday, and I'll put it on and I'll fall asleep. Titans and Broncos, I was wrong. I thought that Russ was gonna come back and be Russ. And you won't see me back Russell Westbrook or Russell Wilson again or Russell Westbrook. I do like Russell Westbrook a little more, but so
Gotta love
Russell
it with the names this week, huh?
loving it. You should have seen last week. I said Joe Mixon was on the Browns.
Javonte
Russell,
Williams instead of Jamal Williams for the Lions.
I said Javonte.
Yeah, but I just wanted to let you go wrong,
Correct
brother.
me, bitch.
Everybody knew anybody that's watching this knows what you're talking about. Sometimes the best people fuck up, and you're one of the best people, and you just fucked up. It's all right.
I like that little backhanded compliment. I love it, and I would expect nothing less. I love it. But Russ, bro, 21 for 42, 50% completion percentage, 248 yards, one touchdown, one pick. And they just don't. I don't know. They got a good defense. They have no rushing attack. I mean,
None.
Melvin Gordon, Latavius Murray, Chase Edmonds, nobody could get it going. And they had some nice performances out of some receivers. And then they also had it didn't Jerry Jeudy go down for the year? Is that what I seen?
It was like a non. I seen it was like a non-contact.
Non-contact.
He was trying to get out of his route, and he went down holding his knee. I don't know. I didn't see. Did they say anything yet? I mean, 90% of the time it's non-contact injury, and they go down like that. Something tore.
And I mean, I hate to
Yeah.
say it, but there was plenty of teams that were willing to take Jeudy before the trade deadline. That they could have got him off the team. And not saying that he was a bad player. He's a decent player. But I mean, when you want a lot for a player and then that happens, that has to suck. And I mean, nobody's fortune
He
teller.
tore his ACL at Alabama, right, in the championship game.
I believe, was that him or was that?
I know.
That might have been him.
I thought I could be off. I'm not. I thought it was the one against Clemson because I thought I don't know. I could be drawing a blank. I thought he tore his ACL before.
So it's actually it's looking like an ankle injury. Rappaport said Broncos wide receiver Jerry Jeudy is being evaluated for an injury to the back of his ankle. Sources said not an Achilles injury. But he was seen after the game in a walking boot is another thing that I've seen. So hopefully it's not an ACL. And they said I seen one, but I didn't check it was in the tops. It had a blue check mark next to it that said where'd it go? I can't find it. It did say that he was he could be dealing with a high ankle sprain, which they could be tricky, but it would be better than a fucking Achilles or an ACL. But
right, exactly.
On the other side, the Titans, who won this game and get to 6-3, with a much needed win for them to kind of keep pace. They're now tied for what it's like a big fucking 4-man tie for the top of the AFC. Am I wrong in that? But either way, they welcome back Ryan Tannehill. He has a pretty solid game, honestly. He throws 2 touchdown passes. He put up 200 and I said 48 or no, yeah, that was Russ. He put up 244 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Derrick Henry kind of had a really quiet game. But the Titans are able to get out of an ugly game with a win. And it was one that was big for them. It's one that's kind of takes any chance almost away from the Broncos. I mean, they're 3-6 now. They got the Chiefs ahead of them. They got the
they're not doing anything.
They got the Chargers ahead of them just in the division alone. And then, like I said, the top of the AFC is just jam packed. There's no way for
the thing that really sticks out to me is the running back situation in Denver right now. Yeah, Melvin Gordon had 7 carries. Latavius Murray have 9 carries. Chase Edmonds have 2, and then Russ ran for seven rushes.
Yeah,
I don't know if their line is just that bad, and also Russ got sacked 6 times in one game, which is kind of absurd. I don't know if they're not playing for Russ or their line is just that bad, but you're not going to win games if you don't have a rushing attack.
No.
I mean, you got to get the play action going. You got to keep defenses honest. And if they're just smashing your rushing attack, you're not going to be able to throw to anybody.
Listen, the Denver Broncos did what a lot of teams can't do, and that's hold Derrick Henry to 19 carries for under 50 yards.
But they lost, Tom.
And they lost.
Yeah.
And they lost. Like you did, your goal to going to playing the Tennessee Titans is to hold Derrick Henry in check. And Denver did that, and they lost.
Exactly. Don't let Derrick Henry beat you. Let other people beat you. And Ryan Tannehill came in and beat them.
He did.
And the new receiver is Nikhil something, I think.
Nikhil Harry?
It's Nicky Westbrook. Yeah.
Yeah, Nicky Westbrook.
He balled out today. He was their leading receiver. And I don't. Tennessee is that team that's just they are going to beat up on some lower level teams, and they're not going to beat teams like the Chiefs or the Bills, which I think they have losses to both of them this year. But they're a decent middle of the pack AFC team, and with Ryan Tannehill back, when Derrick Henry does get back to his going like he was, maybe they're a little bit more dangerous. Now this team is really fucking dangerous. The Kansas City Chiefs, they get to 7-2. They got a 27-17 victory over Jacksonville. And Patrick Mahomes just continues to him and Jalen Hurts are going to battle. Him and Jalen Hurts and Tua, like Tom said. He 331 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. It looks like Pacheco is starting to take over the running back role in that backfield. He goes 16 carries for 82 yards. He had the most carries. And then Kelsey, Valdez-Scantling, Tony, and Noah Gray all got in the end zone today. And the Chiefs just continue to look good. It doesn't look like a game where, you look at the scoreboard, 27-17, you're like, okay, maybe quarterback had 2-3 touchdowns, but Pat was able to put up 4. He dictated the offense. He did what he wanted. He spread the ball around to 10 different people had catches today. 10 different people had targets.
I felt like I had a catch from him.
Yeah. He was all over.
Didn't Tony have his first career NFL touchdown today?
I believe he did.
Kadarius Toney, he did get in the end zone. On the other side, Trevor Lawrence, he had a pretty decent game too. He threw 40 times. He connected with 29 of them, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns. ETN was pretty quiet on the ground. He 11 carries, 45 yards. He did get 3 receptions for 28 yards. So kind of solid game, but not what we've been expecting from him. And coming into this game, Tom had said on the podcast, you weren't here, but Tom had said he needed some fantasy points from Christian Kirk. And Christian Kirk said, Tom, lock of the week. I got you. 9 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tom, did he win you the game? Or was that against me?
It's against you.
Oh, shit.
Why
most of the time. Ayuk is Oh, he fumbled. Oh, damn. Just as I'm about to praise the man, they strip him. Oh, fucking look, Brandon Ayuk.
This is a big game for both teams. This could get the Niners heading in the right direction. And I'm telling you, if the Chargers can pull out another game with having journeymen as wide receivers and not having their 2 top wide receivers, it's going to be huge.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Derwin in on the play. Yeah, I agree. And whatever team now, I'm pretty big on 49ers. I think that they're going to represent the NFC in the NFC Championship against Philly. And I don't know. Minnesota is looking pretty good. But I also like the Chargers on the AFC. They look like they're starting to get a little bit better, a little bit more healthy, maybe. And I like.
I mean, I feel like we're at that point of the season where we're going to see teams turn the tables and kind of go in the right direction.
So coming into this game, I love these matchups because you have two big playmakers on each defense. For the Chargers, you got Derwin, and for the 49ers, you got Fred Warner. And I wanted to see which one's going to step up and kind of, you got the running backs, Eckler, who I think is one of the best running backs in the league, who doesn't get the respect he should, versus McCaffrey. I would have loved to see the healthy wide receivers in this game. It just makes it so much better. But to where I like the Chargers a little bit more is the quarterbacks. I think Jimmy G's not going to – he might not lose you any games, but he's not going to win you any games. To where Herbert, that dude's going to win you games. He's the one that – but this San Fran team, man, it's like, look at what they got between Ayuk. Ayuk's a nice, fourth option for them. But between Kittle, McCaffrey, and Debo, just think about stopping this team moving forward. If you get all three of them rolling, unstoppable, they'll beat any team in the league. I don't give a damn who their quarterback is. If you get two of the three, you're still going to beat most teams. But if you get one, if you just have one each game, one of those three guys on their fucking A game, that gives you a shot to win each game. Those guys they got three game changers in crucial positions. And I do think they're a very scary team. Whoever loses is not getting in my top 10 though. The winner is Tom. If they lose the 49ers, are you dropping them out of your top 10?
If I do not drop them out of my top 10, they're going to 10.
Too much respect if they lose this game here. Because then I just have, like you said, too much respect for the offense. I mean, I know the defense is hurt, but I think I'm going by. I think my main thing is like seeing that offense on paper, how good they should be, knowing that all the playmakers they have it and getting Christian McCaffrey. But I still think they're a quarterback away. And then the piggyback off of like when you're talking about Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, Trey Lance is the same thing as Wentz, man. Did great things at a small time school, and I just don't think he's NFL material. I mean, the 49ers believe in him enough to draft him, right? But they don't believe in him enough. I mean, he went down with an injury, so his is a little bit different. But I don't think this team is in. I know they're only 4-4, but what did they start with him? 0-2 or was it 0-3? He didn't get them out to a good start before he left, before he got hurt. And I don't think that I don't think I'm thinking the same about this team if Trey Lance is there. Now, I do think Trey Lance will be a good quarterback in the future. I just, from what I've seen a little bit that he played last year and what he showed so far this year when he did play, I just wasn't, it wasn't anything special. And I don't know if they got their quarterback in the future. They might. I still think they're going to be a suitor for maybe a guy like Aaron Rodgers wants to get out. If after a bad season, he's been dying to play for the 49ers. He probably could have made that decision already, but that's his hometown team. I don't know if they got their quarterback, but if they get good quarterback play from Jimmy G and one of their three main weapons goes off, they're trouble. They're trouble. They're trouble for a lot of teams, our guys included.
What do you think about the Dolphins?
Offense is legit. Defense still stinks.
Do they now?
It's really weird though because wasn't it? Don't quote me on this. Was it last year, or the year before, where they actually had a pretty decent defense?
I think it might have been 2 seasons ago.
Didn't they have who were the cornerbacks, the two stud cornerbacks that they had at the same time?
Xavier Howard and
wasn't Rhodes, was it?
They did have
the kid from the Vikings, right? Yeah, I think it was. I mean, listen, picking up Bradley Chubb was huge.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. That's a huge pickup. I don't know if they're secondary. DeAndre Carter, again, I just seen that. I don't know if their secondary is going to be able to hold. I mean, listen, they can put up 35 points a game, but their defense will let up 36.
Everybody's been harping on how Nick Chubb came, but what about, not Nick Chubb, Bradley Chubb. coming in on the defensive side. But what about Jeff Wilson?
Love him. Didn't I say that on last episode that he was the player to watch for in this game? And so somebody, was it you? Who was the other running back?
Raheem Mostert.
Was it you that thought he was going to be the one that has a good game?
Yeah,
I did.
Yep, and he did. He got the touchdown.
Yeah, no, I know that. I'm saying, but dude, Jeff Wilson Jr. is a great pickup for them.
Oh, so that cornerback, it was Xavier Howard and Byron Jones.
Byron Jones from
Dallas, right?
He came from Dallas. That's when they had Jerome Baker. They had some players, but yeah, I did think that Raheem Mostert was going to have the big day, but they both perform.
I think they're definitely just that 1-2 punch now.
With Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and that 1-2 punch, that offense is elite.
So Raheem Mostert had 4 catches to where Jeff Wilson had 2. They both had similar yards with 22 and 24. But Wilson outcarried him by 9. They both found the end zone, and Raheem Mostert had 8 carries, 65 yards. Wilson had 17 for 119. They both averaged over 7 yards a carry, which is kind of crazy. And then on the other side, you did say that the Miami Dolphins defense stinks, and I don't understand. I said coming into this game, if Cleveland, they just needed to hold off one more week because now they're going to get Deshaun Watson back, right? But instead of you're going up against a team like this, I remember saying like a key for them in this game was going to be get Nick Chubb involved. Let Nick Chubb take over the game. Limit the amount of times that Miami sees the field, their offense, and you're going to have a good chance. And Nick Chubb was averaging 5.7 yards per carry, and he only got 11 carries. He only touched the ball 14 times in this game. So in a game where you have, again, still your backup quarterback, you have Jacoby Brissett throw 35 times. Now, it's partially Nick Chubb's fault. I will say that, because to where Nick Chubb was killing it in the averages, right? Cleveland goes down, scores. They're up 7-0. Miami comes back and scores. It's 7-7. Then towards the end of the first quarter, Cleveland's driving, and Nick Chubb fumbled, and Miami got the ball back. And from there, everything changed. He killed them, but still, if that's a guy like Miles Sanders, we've seen it before where he fumbles a crucial drive and he gets sit down for a couple drives, right? You don't fucking go away from Nick Chubb. He's earned it to where that's one dude, even if he fumbles, bro, 11 carries, 63 yards, 5.7 per attempt, and a touchdown. And he fumbles once, and it's like they kind of went away from him, and then they were just like, you know what? We don't trust Nick Chubb. We're going to go Jacoby Brissett, and he's going to have a fucking shootout with the Miami Dolphins, who's the most dangerous pass team, and Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to lead the team in targets. That doesn't fucking sound like a recipe for success, Cleveland.
Who was at one point just a special teams player in college.
He was. I don't understand it. The city of Cleveland, your basketball team is really fucking good right now, but your football team, I don't know that Deshaun Watson is going to save it. I think he'll make them a little bit better, but he could come out aggressive, and maybe he makes them a little bit worse. You never know. The dude hasn't played football in a while. But I don't get it. The Dolphins, shout out to them. They fucking stomped. Now, this is where the whole this team beat this team. Miami has beaten Buffalo. They've beaten the Ravens. They've beaten the Browns, who stomped on the Bengals. Like, the Dolphins are looking like a really good team. They're looking like I'm going to have them as the best team in the AFC this week. And
I still think over that Dolphins team that beat the Ravens. Where were they down 21-0 or 28-7 or something like that?
Yeah, I think going in the fourth quarter or something like that.
And they scored and won the game. I mean, the only team that Miami didn't beat was the New York Jets. But then again, that was with Skylar Thompson or whatever his name is. So Tua is still undefeated, right?
Yeah, they got smacked. They did. They got smacked. They got smacked 40-17 to the Jets. But again, that is backup quarterback, and he didn't play good. To where the game against Minnesota that I looked at last week, they did play. They played well there, but in that game versus the Jets, he had no answers, and he killed them.
Teams like the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Eagles, the game plan for success should be to run the ball, manage the clock, and not let the offenses be on the field.
Yeah.
It just
Why would you?
that's how it has to be.
Why would you want to give Tyreek Hill more field time? Why would you want to give Jalen Waddle more field time? Like, I feel like, yeah, number one goal has to be keep these dudes on the side. And you got they have the best run blocking offensive line. They were creating holes 5.7 yards per carry. He did break a big one, but he's got home run potential on every time he touches the ball. You got the best rush blocking offensive line in the league, and you're going up against a team that you don't want to fucking get into a shootout against. How the fuck do you give this dude, I'm sorry for all the cursing, how do you give this dude 11 carries? Like, I'm not an NFL coach, but I feel like this is common sense. Who's their coach? Is their coach their coach ain't Stefanski or I got
Kevin Stefanski?
Yeah, Kevin Stefanski.
He's not with who's with the Vikings? It is Stefanski with the Browns.
It's another young dude with the Vikings, ain't it?
Yeah, it's another young guy with the Vikings.
Yeah, but Kevin O'Connell. But
Kevin O'Connell,
dude,
yeah.
What the fuck? Are you trying to, like, I don't understand it. How do you take the ball out of that dude's hand? Like, you were at your best when Nick Chubb got the ball.
I think teams just start to panic and they just don't know what to do. So that's when you start getting into these shootouts, and we'll try to get into shootouts, but I mean, you can't. There's no way you can get into a shootout with the Dolphins. That offense is way too explosive. Way too explosive.
So, in what I think is the Browns' best game of the season, right, would be offensively would either be that game versus the Chargers, or their last game against the Bengals. That was their most dominating game. In that game, Nick Chubb, 23 carries, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt had 11 carries for 42. So between the two of them, what did they touch the ball? 34 times for 143 yards. And they had what many would believe is their best game of the season. And in this game, they combined Kareem Hunt touched the ball 6 times. Chubb touched it 11 times to where they got 17. They got 17 total touches on the ground. So it's I don't get it. I mean, you could even look at the Chargers game. I don't know. I'm going to just blindly look at it, and I guarantee. Look, 28 touches between the two of them, 181 yards, 3 touchdowns. The other game they played really good in offensively was the Jets game, and the two combined for 30 touches, 150 something yards, and 3 touchdowns. When you give them the ball, they fucking have success. It's like the Bills getting Gabe Davis involved. The numbers lead to victories. The Browns, they don't have the quarterback. I said he was playing nice this year, but he's not the guy that's going to. He's proven it in Indy. He's proven it in New England and different places that he's been or wherever he was. That he's not the guy that's going to take over a game and win it for you. And you got the dudes in the backfield that could, and they just went away from them. I don't get it. The Saints and the Steelers, and I was high on the Steelers this week pretty much against the Saints because, one, as Philly fans, we all want the Saints to just continue losing so that it improves our draft picks. But two, I felt like TJ Watt coming back was going to be big, and he showed up on the very first drive. I think the first play of the game. He gets in the backfield. It's either a 1-yard loss or he stopped the running back at the line of scrimmage. And from there, I talked some shit on small hands, old Kenny Pickett, and him and his tiny hands. But, he did what he had to do in this game. He didn't overwhelm anyone, but he didn't do what Andy Dalton did. Andy Dalton threw 2 picks. Pickett didn't, and he's the one that had been coming into the game throwing picks. Najee Harris, Tom, you said he needed to do something, and he did. And from there, it's Pittsburgh's defense really shut them down. Tom, you also said Kamara had to get going in order for the Saints to have a good game. And I was looking at Chris Olave, and they did target Olave a couple times, but he didn't have a big game. Kamara couldn't get going. Again, even Kamara, they only gave him 8 carries, and they targeted him 4 times. So they called 12 plays for Alvin Kamara with Andy Dalton as your quarterback. You got anything for that, bro? Because I'm fucking stumped here.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I mean, I don't know why you want to become such a pass dominant team with Andy Dalton. It's not like he did anything special in Cincy. He sure as hell ain't doing nothing special in Dallas. But you're not a starting quarterback in the NFL. You're just your next job is a career backup quarterback. I mean, you could be a starting quarterback for a team like NOLA, but they can't. The Saints, they're not a team that can tank. They don't. They're. I mean, if they want to listen to me, I hope they tank. I hope they lose. They can forfeit the rest of the season. That's only going to help us. But it's not like they have anything to lose for.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, the only thing that benefits them losing, well, it actually won't benefit them is trying to get their pick back and selling the farm to get that pick back, because it's obvious they need a quarterback. This draft class is going to be. What was that?
Who would they have that's worth that pick?
Picks as in plural. So in order to get our pick, which I mean, if they're trending in the same, in the same state, they're going to be. We'll probably have a top 5 pick. This draft is going to be loaded with quarterbacks. They need a quarterback. I don't believe in Jameis Winston. I mean, he's a turnover machine, and if you want to start over fresh, you're going to need that pick.
So that's my point. Who do they have? Are you talking about trading us future picks for that number 1 pick?
Correct. Because I mean, we could probably go without having to get a pick that early, is what I'm trying to say. Because we don't need a quarterback. Everybody, I mean, the first 3 picks are probably going to be quarterbacks this draft. That's how loaded the draft class is. So I mean, unless we're trading back with that to go up and get a future, I mean, they're going to have to give off some serious assets to get a pick, to get a quarterback. But my whole thing with this was Andy Dalton. He used to get beat up on the Steelers when he was in the AFC North.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew going into Heinz Field, he was probably going to do the same and get beat up.
Yeah. Yeah. Andy's not. He's a shell of his former self, and considering his former self, he was at best he was a middle of the run quarterback. It's not looking good for. It's not looking good for
the old Red Rocket,
Red Rifle. The Red Rocket is remember that dog Gucci that we had, that little horny bastard.
Yeah.
That's the fucking Red Rocket right there. But so I got a question for you guys. You guys actually, this is unprompted. Your conversation kind of just led me into this. If the Eagles were to entertain the idea of trading the pick back to the Saints, what would it take? Like, is Alvin Kamara on the table? Is that like the big piece you would accept? I think he would need to bring something with him, especially if that pick turns out to be top 10, top 5. It would have to be Kamara and something else. What do you guys see coming back for that pick?
I need a Kamara, a 1, and a 2.
A Kamara, a 1 and a 2 for. Let's say that pick stop. That pick would have to be like top 3 in order to get that, though.
Maybe top 5, I think.
Well, you got to think they're going to go. You got to think Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud are the first 2 off the table.
Right, exactly.
And then, I mean, Will Levis is going to go high. Then you're going to have you got to think the edge rusher from Alabama. Whatever that he's going to go.
Yeah. I know you're talking about
the edge rusher from Clemson. I think it is that's going to go top. It just depends on it all depends on where our pick falls. If they even want to trade. I mean, if our pick isn't top 5, they might not want to trade us for. I mean, you got to think Houston's going to go Bryce Young. The Detroit's going to go a quarterback depending on where they fall. They're the ones that might. I mean, I don't even know who would be number 2. Who's number 2 right now, Ryan? Other than Houston, will probably project at number 1 right now. Who's number 2? Do you have it up?
I got it. Give me a second. Keep going now.
I mean, so you don't think that the Texans believe in Davis Mills?
Absolutely not.
No, I think he's a good filler.
You don't think that he's a good quarterback and he just doesn't have anything around him?
I just don't think. I mean, this is his second year and he's proved nothing.
I mean, again, like I said, do you just think he doesn't have anything like pieces around him
I
to
mean,
make
he's
him
got.
good?
Listen to me.
Today
Davis
he threw
Mills
he threw
has
319 yards on one of the better defenses in the league.
Davis Mills has better receivers than Justin Herbert right now.
Mm.
Brandon Cooks is better than Joshua Palmer and DeAndre Carter. But my point is I don't know. I don't think Houston's sold on him. I think
Hold on.
they want to go with a top name
You
that's going to sell them tickets. Davis Mills isn't going to sell Houston tickets. CJ Stroud or Bryce Young will sell Houston tickets.
So real quick, you said now this is where my boy gets disrespected, and I need you to show him a little love. You think that the Texans have a better receiving core? Did you? Because he just caught one in real time. He gets the most targets on the team, I'm pretty sure. But Austin Eckler's a receiver for that team. He's a running back, but he's big. He's like their number one receiver year in
No,
year out. Him and Keenan
I,
Allen. So
I,
go ahead.
I get you what you're saying there. I just didn't put Austin Eckler in that conversation because I'm just labeling him as a running back. I mean, obviously he's better than Damian Pierce, but
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I mean their game plan. Every team right now with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams out, game plan is to bottle up Austin Eckler.
Yeah, and he still
I mean,
can't be bottled up.
it was like what was it? The first 3 or 4 weeks he done nothing, and out of nowhere he scored how many touchdowns in the past 3 or 4 weeks?
A lot. So listen, I got it. So Houston's sitting in first place right now for the draft sweepstakes. Vegas is second. I was trying to see if they have their own draft pick. I think that they do. Carolina is third. So right there, and then Philly is actually fourth via New Orleans, and then Jacksonville, Chicago. So the teams after that don't really have a need for quarterback in number 5 and 6, and neither does number 4. But those first three is Houston, Las Vegas, and Carolina, which gives us Davis Mills, Derek Carr, and a mix of PJ Walker, Baker Mayfield, and Sam Darnold. So you got to think, and if these were to stay the same, those three teams are probably most definitely. Do you think that Vegas, if they sit at number 2, you think that's enough for them to draft one of those quarterbacks and get rid of Derek Carr?
1,000%.
Or do they continue to build around Carr and either take one of the defensive players, the top defensive player, because that number 1 pick is going to be a quarterback? Do they take the top defensive player in this draft, or do they trade back and load up more picks and build and continue to build around Carr?
I mean, if I'm Vegas, they're too invested in Carr already, so I would build around them. But just like Tom says, they just built a new stadium, so they need to put asses in those seats.
Yeah.
So if Derek Carr, if we don't see any type of progression, which we haven't been seeing, this is the second week where we're saying, okay, Derek Carr, like we're talking about this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that they go quarterback. And they trade Derek Carr. They traded Derek Carr, they release him, whatever, get a second, third, fourth. They'll get something out of that. There's going to be teams that need quarterbacks next year. There's always teams that need quarterbacks.
And I believe that if the Eagles were able to get even though it was conditional, if the Eagles were able to get a first for Carson Wentz coming off all that shit that he came off of, and then the Colts were able to turn around and get a second back, I think that somebody will give up a first for Derek Carr. It might be a low first, but so then the third team leaves us at Carolina, and the Panthers, they're going quarterback. So if this were to stay Houston, Las Vegas, Carolina, I think we all agree that all three of those teams are going quarterback. And then that leaves New Orleans. Let's say they finish where they are. That's number 4. They're not going to make that haul if their pick is not in the top 3, because those top 3 teams, depending on what they do, are most likely going quarterback. They're not going to make that haul unless they're guaranteed to get their guy. So I think
I could see a New Orleans Saints giving up a second, a third for him if they could do that.
Well, yeah. So if they continue to lose and they get into that top 3, then they make that happen potentially. And then the Eagles got them by the balls and could say, we'll give you your pick. And that would be the fucking heist of the year from Howie Roseman. And I don't know, they got players that have been linked to us in Kamara. They got the Honey Badger. I guess either one of them could come, maybe with a pick or something. It really depends. These teams value quarterbacks. So we're not going to, we seen the haul that we had to give up to go get Carson, the haul that these teams will give up to move up. And I think that if we finish in the top 3 with their pick, I think we move it, and we're not going to take one. It's crazy that an 8-0 team is sitting here with a pick in the top 4. That Howie got a ton of shit, but that dude's a whiz.
Listen, like, what do you honestly do if we are the first pick of the NFL draft? What do you do as a GM? Put yourself in Howie's shoes. What do you do? We have the first overall pick in the 2023 NFL draft.
Mm-hmm. I think that this is what I do right here. So if the Eagles finish at first via New Orleans, they're at number 1. That means that they hold all the cards. And that means, let's say Houston, Las Vegas, and Carolina shift down. Whichever one, because again, Jacksonville, Chicago, and Pittsburgh, who round out the top 10, they don't need quarterbacks. Detroit needs a quarterback. Seattle could be looking at a quarterback. And then Houston has a second pick via Cleveland. So I say all that to say, the 3 teams you're targeting is Houston, Las Vegas, and Carolina. If any of those teams were to fall out of the top 4 and the Eagles slid up to number 1, you attack that team and you say, look, you need a quarterback. We'll get you back into the top 3, but you got to give us. Houston has a lot of I think Houston has a good amount of assets, but you pretty much you take the best offer. Maybe you go again. Brian Burns was being shopped. If the Eagles are sitting at number 1, I would take Brian Burns and New Orleans first next year and maybe another mid-round pick if they could pull that off to go and get a young stud defensive end like that will eliminate fucking Derek Barnett off the field for us.
Right.
If the Saints have the number 1 pick, they hold the nuts to multiple teams having their franchise quarterback.
Well, if the Saints hold the number 1 pick, the Eagles, yeah.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. If the Eagles hold the number 1 pick, they hold the nuts to multiple teams' career, like the multiple teams' next 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Obviously, panning out if C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young are NFL quarterbacks. But I do think somewhere there, the Saints want to go with somebody like C.J. Stroud to pair him up with their future wide receiver again, and like Chris Olave.
Yeah.
Sort of like what Cincy did with how a lot of people gave them shit for not drafting an offensive lineman and going after Jamar Chase, and it paid out. They went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Jamar Chase is another one of those guys that I think is one of the best young receivers in the league. But yeah, that's exciting. The Eagles have the 4th overall pick right now, and they have the 32nd overall pick. I think that we're in good shape, and Howie's a whiz. And hey, this is just if Jalen continued doing what he's doing, just think about where this team could be because we got multiple mid-round picks too. And if you can add, that pick right now is Will Anderson. Those quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3. That pick sitting, that's adding Will Anderson to this defense. And I don't watch too much college football, but I've seen dudes highlights, and he's a dog. He could go ahead, Tom.
He's a game changer.
He is. He could sit out the rest of this year and just be done with college football, and he's still a top 5 pick. And I would love to see that dude in midnight green. But yeah, so the Saints and the Steelers, man, the Steelers won, and I think that the game plan was I said coming into this game, if there was an advantage, I felt like it was Mike Tomlin versus Dennis Allen, and to where the Saints got away from where they're really good, which is Alvin Kamara. Mike Tomlin said, "Okay, I got this young buck who's he's really not doing it." So he cuts it down, right? 30 attempts, 6.6 average. So he's hitting these short passes, no interceptions. He tells his kid, or I'm assuming he tells him, protect the fucking ball. And he turns around and says to Najee Harris, who was struggling, this is your get right game. I don't care about the receivers. This is the game you get right. And they got right, and they pull out a dub, and I love it. I love to see it for our draft pick. And I love to see it because fuck the Saints. When I went to New Orleans for that playoff game that Alshon dropped the ball, they broke my heart. So, and I'm still not over it. So the Giants picked up a dub. They're at 7-2. And I'm still, I didn't think this was going to be the game, but I'm still waiting for this team to show us their true colors. But I could tell you that they're going to jump ahead of Seattle. They're probably going to jump up to 6-7 in my power rankings, and they get a 24-16 dub over the Texans. And Davis Mills, who is a quarterback of the future for the Texans, 319 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Dameon Pierce was Another one. Dude, we could just go through these games all day. Dameon Pierce averaging 5.5 per carry, and he only got 17 carries, to where Davis Mills throws the ball 37 times. And on the other side, fucking Daniel Jones, what we said coming into this game, this was a running game, right? The fucking Texans let Davis Mills throw it almost 40 times, and they only give the ball to Dameon Pierce, who's averaging 5.5, 17 times. On the other side, Daniel Jones throws 13 for 17. He gets 17 passes, and Saquon Barkley, 35 carries, 152 yards, a touchdown, and he had one catch. Saquon touched the ball 36 times, and that's why they won. And it wasn't a pretty game. They only won by one possession, but they said we're gonna let our playmaker win us this game. And I feel like that's just got to be the strategy for everybody. No,
Yeah, the Giants let their best player on their team win in the game.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? The Giants is just sticking to their identity. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're not trying trick plays. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. They're sticking to Saquon Barkley, who's the offense they run it through. Which, I mean, I would probably run it through this, the same person, because he's a tank. And they're letting their defense just play ball. So they're managing on the offensive side, and then they're letting their defense just play defense. And that's what a lot of teams, they like. The Browns, they're that team. The Saints, they should be that team. The Tennessee Titans, they are that team. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they should be that team. Just stick to your identity. If you're a defensive team, run the ball, sprinkle in pass plays, but you should be running on first and second, especially on first down. It opens up the play action. It opens up the RPOs. It opens up different things instead of, trying to reinvent the wheel and constantly passing the ball.
Yeah. I want this. It's almost like I want this right here, right? I want this clip right here to blow the fuck up. And I'm going to look at the camera for it. Give your stars the ball. And like Derek said, stop trying to reinvent the wheel. Just run the ball. Sorry, I want to get real close for that. It's just dumb shit. Cleveland, I'm still dumbfounded at how you have the best rushing blocking line in the league and the best running back in the league potentially, and you just do what they did.
Wait, Ryan, do you have Nick Chubb in your fantasy league?
No.
Okay.
My running backs, I'm typically weak in running back, and this year I have Lenny Fournette in two leagues. I got Aaron Jones in 2 leagues. I had Allaire, Eckler, and McCaffrey. Like, my running backs are pretty stacked in my leagues, but I still am not beating Tom, which maybe I am. I haven't checked. Tom, you got anything else on this particular game?
No, but I'm going to go to the next game, and I'm going to tell you somebody who is not afraid to run the ball.
Tell me.
And that's Jeff Saturday.
Who won on Sunday.
Rye, Rye, I will give you your props. You called it. I said there's no shot that. Listen, I didn't hate the Jeff Saturday signing. I thought maybe it's good for the league. There's nothing for him. It's good for the team. There's literally nothing for him to lose. He wins. He might continue to be the head coach. He loses. There's nothing on him. He's never coached in the NFL before. But
that's true.
He's Jonathan Taylor coming back off of an injury. You gave him the ball 22 times for 147 yards. Another team that gave their best player on the team the ball over 20 plus times and a pass down. They won the game. I mean, Matt Ryan didn't play the best, but he didn't play terrible. But again, the game went through Jonathan Taylor, and they won the game off of his 147 yards.
Matt Ryan, 21 for 28, 222 yards, 1 touchdown, and I think most importantly, no interceptions, and only took 1 sack. So not only did they get JT back and Saturday went to him, but he also got rid of Sam Ehlinger and went back to the vet, to Matt Ryan.
Which is crazy because when he was in his interview about being the head coach, he announced Sam Ehlinger being his starting quarterback, and nobody knew until today that Matt Ryan was there, that he's decided to go with Matt Ryan.
Yeah, bro, this morning I was listening to the Bucs and Seahawks. I was on my way to Wally World to go pick up our grocery order, and I was sitting at a red light, and McCaffrey down to the 3. I was sitting at a red light and I just decided to pull my phone, pull my phone out and check. I wanted to see if, who was starting for the Colts. And it said the latest report was that Sam Ellinger, and that was at like 9:30 in the morning. It said Sam Ellinger was starting and that Matt Ryan was going to be active, but he was going to be behind. He was going to be the backup. And then Sam Ellinger, I don't even think he took a snap. It was Matt Ryan time. I did want to say that your boy DeAndre Carter had a nice play. He got them down to the 1 on the last drive, but they only got 3. And now the 49ers are actually, they handed off to McCaffrey's up the middle. Get in there. Down at the 1. But yeah, the 49ers look like they're about to punch it in, try to make it 13-10.
I need a QB sneak here.
Right before the half with with Jimmy G. He's too pretty for a QB sneak.
I just can't have CMC score.
So I can. This is us. All right. So D, I'm about to text the group chat real quick because you know how that works. So me and Derek had this.
I want to give a shout out to Kiara because I just found out yesterday that you can do an online shopping order at Walmart for pickup. I only thought that you can only do it for delivery. Like you could be at the comfort of your own bed, and literally she could be at the comfort of her own bed and do a full grocery shopping and tell Ryan he has to go pick it up.
That's exactly what happened.
I never knew you could do that, dude, until yesterday.
Bro, I pulled up in the parking lot. I fucking looked on my app. I pushed a button, and the dude came out to my car, and I helped him load it in, and we got the fuck out of there. I don't have to shop. I literally do it. What's crazy is I do it on my computer, and they have everything saved. I can just press order the same as last time. It charges our card. And I'm not plugging Wally World here, bro. They need to pay us for that shit. But and I've plugged them a couple times on this fucking podcast already. So shout out to Wally World. Sponsor us. Give us a nice logo that says whatever. Not me. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Shout out to Kiara, my wife. And she ain't watching this. I think she's asleep. But so I did. And I love to say I told you so. I did tell you that the Colts were gonna win. And Jeff came in and he said, I don't have the most confidence in my quarterback. I'm gonna let my motherfucking workhorse in the back who's coming out fresh. I'm gonna let him go ahead and carry this one. And they did. And the defense stepped up and they played big. On the other side.
I mean, before we get to the other side real quick, the one thing that I respect from Jeff Saturday, what he did, is he let his coordinators take over the play calling.
Yeah.
Today was the first time that the offensive coordinator called the plays for the Colts. And I just never understood why coaches felt like they needed to take over play calling. Yeah. It should be, it's kind of like managers, supervisors, employees type thing. Like you're the coach, you're the head coach to, guide these guys in the right direction. But you hired them because you believe in them. So why not let them call the plays? I just never understood that with coaches.
Yo, now that you say that, is there an NFL head coach that calls defensive plays?
Yeah, Todd Bowles.
Yeah, Todd Bowles, I believe, does.
I don't know if he's the well. So that the thing with Todd Bowles was when Bruce Arians was the head coach, Todd Bowles was the defensive coordinator. Arians moved up to the front office. Bowles went up. I'm pretty sure he does continue to call.
So that's one. Like, I know that there's multiple head coaches that are the ones that call in and call the offensive plays. So then what's the point of having an offensive coordinator? Give him the book, let him do his job. But what I don't know is if there's any head coaches that actually call the defensive plays in. Like, I thought that every defensive
there might be defensive minded coaches though, like that.
Yeah, like a Sean McDermott, but he's not the one calling into his linebacker or his captain of the defense. That's what I'm saying. Like, is there any head coaches that are actually calling into their defensive player to give them the defensive play? That I don't know. That's what I was asking.
Todd Bowles. I did just this is an article from the end of March. It says, and it's from Bucs Wire, that Todd Bowles will still call defensive plays for 2022. And the other person and I don't know, but the first person when you asked that besides Bowles that popped up in mind was Ron Rivera. I know I'm pretty sure he used to call his plays in Carolina when him and Kuechly were terrorizing the league. But Rivera was he's a defensive guy. I would say it's probably more common on offense because those offensive guys, they're there because they're offensive. Like I feel like defensive coaches, like Mike Vrabel. Vrabel's a defensive player.
Mhm.
Vrabel's another one. I think he calls him into his guys, but Vrabel is the one where I feel like he's also well versed on offense. To where it's like these defensive coaches when they step up, they're forced to learn offense because offense is that's the key part of a team. To where the offensive guys like Cliff Kingsbury, I don't think that dude gives a fuck about what happens on defense. I think these offensive coaches McVay.
Right. He just thinks that you just got to outscore your opponent. That's it.
Listen, he's still living in that fucking. He's still living in college days where they don't play defense.
And this is a great chance to kind of jump in, but before we do, Derek Carr, and what I'm saying, jump in the Cliff Kingsbury thing is I got questions on Arizona. I don't care that they won, but real quick, Derek Carr, David Carr, whoever he is this week, he didn't play horrible. And I do now. This is where I can give love to a team that has struggled, and I can give love to a team that lost, to a team that maybe they should have beaten and I'm going to give some love to the Raiders, at least their coach. Derek Carr did throw the ball 38 times, but Josh Jacobs was on the ground 21 times. He carried it 21 times, and he wasn't getting – he only averaged 3.7, but he did have 78 yards and a touchdown. But he also touched the ball 6 times. He was targeted 8 times. So they designed 29 plays for Josh Jacobs, who has really been a bright spot in this offense, and they tried. They didn't just let Carr throw the ball 50 times and Josh Jacobs runs it 12. And then, no, they got it to Jacobs and they got it to Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams had 14 targets, 9 catches, 126 yards and a touchdown. And he's the reason why Tom does still have a chance to beat me in fantasy because he blew up. But the Raiders at least had a game plan, it seems, and they stuck to it. And it just didn't work out. They lost. Cool. I can live with that. At least they didn't fucking, like I said, give Josh Jacobs 3 touches for the game. But jumping over to that Arizona game now, I don't have too much on the game because it was a backup quarterback battle.
It was a slop fest, let's be honest.
Yeah, but I'm more concerned with the team because I'm definitely more concerned with the team. They got James Conner back. He actually did pretty decent today. Didn't really kill it on yards and yards per carry, but he had 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins looked good again. And on the other side, I think Cooper Kupp is dealing with another injury. Cam Akers got back into the mix. Kupp went 3 catches, -1 yard. Like he didn't do shit for them. Again, backups. But on the Cardinals side, earlier in the week, I had seen a video where DeAndre Hopkins asked Kyler Murray, "What are you looking at, or what did you see?" And I've seen these different videos. That one, there was another one. The Buda Baker video was pretty. I think Buda was trying to light a fire under the team, and it sucked because he's on the verge of tears in the video that came out last week. And then the following week, I don't think he played. I think he wound up having to miss the game. But they win, right? But they just seem dysfunctional. They seem like DeAndre Hopkins seems like him and Murray maybe aren't on the same page. Maybe Cliff Kingsbury and Murray have been together too long because they seem like they're always at each other. It just looks like Kyler Murray, and I don't know if it's because he gets the most blame on his team, but it looks like he's just not in sync with his number 1 receiver, and he's not in sync with his head coach, and that's not a recipe for success. You beat the Rams. The Rams are not what they were last year. But moving forward, the Cardinals are really going to have to kind of try to get together if they want it. They're not out of it. They're 4-6 in the NFC where the middle is bunched up. Those wild card spots are pretty bunched up with the exception of the top 2 in New York and Dallas. So I don't know what they do from here, but it seems like they're losing. It seems like they're losing the locker room.
Yeah, and like you said, I don't have much in this game either. It was battle of the backups. So I mean, the game I wasn't too interested in, but the teams I was. And like you said, I think it's the same thing. I think they need to overhaul the coaching staff and, get a new regime in there. Because, I mean, right now, if you had 3 coaches, these 3 coaches I put in front of you, who is more on the hot seat? Kingsbury, Josh McDaniels, or Mike Tomlin?
Cliff.
Mike McDaniels, you said?
No. Josh McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels.
Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin's not on the hot seat. He don't have a team around. That's a good. The other two are pretty good though. Kingsbury. I think Kingsbury's might be a little bit.
The only reason why I say Tomlin is because of the tenure. He's been there a really long time. So
Yeah,
Well,
and this is
Josh
the first year
McDaniels
where it
is
looks
the first year for Josh McDaniels, ain't it?
so that's where I think he gets a little bit of a leash. I think that Josh McDaniels is gonna lean on Derek Carr a little bit and his downfalls. So I think that he might get another chance to where Kingsbury, they've been everything with this team. They've been complete dog shit. They've been really good and then collapsed and looked like dog shit. There was a year I think they started 7-0 or 8-0 and they won. They finished with not nearly as fucking 16 wins. But he's been the very middle of the pack team, and then he's been a team that starts slow and is now trying to catch up. And he's just again losing the locker room. I feel like there's always something coming out. Even just watching the body language in a lot of those videos between Kyler Murray and Kingsbury, or really just Kyler Murray, is where I'm typically focusing. The dude just looks like he's sick of it. He don't want to be there, but I could just be speculating, and I probably am. But that's something that I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on moving forward. Tom, you got anything on?
Yeah, I mean, like Mike Tomlin's going with a rookie quarterback. So them making a change of scenery, sort of like what the Eagles did with Andy Reid. I think Josh McDaniels gets a pass only because he's a rookie. And I think Cliff's more on the hot seat because of what that team was supposed to be and what that team is. I mean, like Ryan said, they have 6 losses. They still got to play the 49ers twice. They still got to play the Chargers. They still got to play the Buccaneers. I mean, that could be 4 losses. That could be 10. They could finish 7-10 or even worse for a team that was supposed to be at least a 10-plus win team.
Yeah.
I mean, that NFC West, what everybody said was going to be completely stacked with the Rams, other than the Seahawks, with the Rams. Nobody thought the Seahawks were going to play what they did now without Russ. But like I said, with the Niners, the Rams, and the Niners, the Rams, and the Cardinals, that they were supposed to be 3 top teams that were supposed to be able to all 3 make the playoffs. And it's like complete opposite now. That everything that they were supposed to have, now the NFC East has it. I mean, nobody's seen. I for one never seen the Giants being this good right now. Dallas is always. I mean, Dallas is Dallas, and then the Eagles being 8-0.
Yeah, brought up Dallas, and we're going to kind of transition right into that. I got something in front of me that I thought was interesting, and I definitely, being a Cowboy hater, this is where I'll be. Facts. I can't be unbiased with facts. I promise I won't shit on the team as I want to, but I can't be unbiased with facts. I'm just giving facts and statements. And I found one where it says that going into the fourth quarter, now this is on CBSSports.com. Going into the fourth quarter, the Cowboys were leading 28-14, but they ended up losing, marking the first time in the organization's 62-year history that Dallas has lost a game where it held at least a 14-point lead going into the fourth quarter. They had been 195-0, and they are now 194-1 because mama, there goes that man, Aaron Rodgers, all whatever upped on shrooms, came back and led the Packers back, and Christian Watson balled out. This was an overtime thriller where the Packers, I'm pretty sure they did stuff Dallas. I was so wrapped up. We were just about to start this, but they stuffed Dallas, and then the Packers get the ball. They go down, and Mason Crosby knocks one through, and that was a big pass to Alan Lazard, and Crosby knocks it in, and Dallas goes down, and now it's just like we talked about with the Bucs. I think that the Bucs have a better chance to trend better than the Packers, but this is a big win for the Packers coming off that stinker to Detroit, going up against arguably before Minnesota beat Buffalo. People were trying to argue that Dallas was the number 2 team in the NFC. So you go up against that team and you beat them. You come back from down 14 in the fourth quarter. That's a big win for confidence in that building, and it's a big blow for Dallas, bro. Michael Parsons was a little gimpy today. He got banged up on one of the plays. I seen him, limping off the field. What do we got on Dallas and Green Bay? And if somebody could tell me, who's this win or loss in case of win for Green Bay, loss for Dallas? Whose season is more affected by this game, by the outcome?
I'm gonna say Green Bay's. And the reason why I say Green Bay is because we're in that identity phase like I was talking about earlier. Green
Mhm.
Bay, you have Aaron Rodgers, so anything is possible with Aaron. But look who he's throwing to. Christian Watson, who had a big game today, Alan Lazard. But if you go and look at their game, Christian Watson had 4 receptions for 107 yards. 4 receptions. I mean, there was running backs on other teams that had more receptions, and he led the team with receptions.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're having huge games. It's just Rodgers is probably dotting them, and they're getting all these yards on, one reception. So the Green Bay Packers, I think they realized today, run the ball. They had 37 rushing attempts total, between their 2 running backs, over 200 yards. So again, this is all an identity thing. Yeah, cool, you have Aaron Rodgers. Doesn't mean he has to throw the ball 50 times a game. Run the ball, let the play action get going, so you can open up the pass for these young guys that maybe can get a little bit more separation with that, with the play action.
Bro, you are sweet talking me right now. Now you're talking my language. Now you're talking my. I've talked this whole show about how I wish that these head coaches would just, if their quarterback's not playing the best, or maybe they're just give the ball to the running backs. And I think last week they both Jones went down. He was a little gimpy. Dylan really wasn't able to do much, but 37 attempts, like you said, they go over 200 yards combined, and they punch in a touchdown. And that's, bro. And why I say you're talking my language is because I had a little bit of notes on this game, and I'm not gonna say you stole my thunder. You just made you brought the thunder, because that's what it is. They opened it up. They opened up the play action so well by allowing those two to do what they do, especially Aaron Jones. And that gave guys like Christian Watson a chance, Alan Lazard a chance, because those guys were fucking and if you give Aaron Rodgers a rushing attack, and he's the best play action. I don't care about Lamar. I don't care about Josh Allen. He's the best play action quarterback in the league. And I proved it last week with a stat. He's the best quarterback in the league under pressure. So when you're able to get the play action running, you're able to be good against pressure. There's not much the defense could do. You got the running backs firing, you got the quarterback can handle pressure, and you got him playing off the play action. And I don't give a damn how good that Cowboys defense is or how good any defense is. And I don't care what their receiver status looks like. If you give him a running game, he's like Brady. He will make nobodies look like somebodies. And
exactly.
And he did it. And each week they're getting closer to their guys coming back. They're getting closer to getting a little bit more defensive help. They're getting, and Randall Cobb is not going to blow anybody away. But Randall Cobb is very crucial for Rodgers, because when it comes down to those crucial third downs, or maybe even 4th and shorts where maybe Aaron Jones or Dylan aren't getting the yards, he's going to go to Old Reliable. He's going to go to the dudes that he trusts, and them two work together so long that I just feel like, just even getting Randall Cobb back is going to give his team a boost.
That's what I'm saying. They were missing some linemen and stuff. So just like Tom said before, linemen, they want to be in the trenches. They don't want to have to fall back and pass rush. Pass protect all the time. Let them get in the trenches, push the fucking defense back, and let their running backs do the game. So once they do have to pass protect, they're gonna, they're gonna want to pass protect better and more.
So, Tom, I want to get to you in a second, but real quick, I checked over. Every time we're kind of talking about a game, I like to go on Twitter. I was a stranger to Twitter. When we launched this podcast, I started familiarizing myself with Twitter, and I think it's the greatest fucking thing ever. But the Dallas Cowboys, there's 3 things here I want to put out, and then Tom, I want you to just go after me, boy. Christian Watson is the first Packers rookie since James Lofton to score 3 touchdowns in a single game. It's been about almost 44 years. So rookies put up big numbers in this one. Then there's the official Dallas Cowboys Twitter put out. Pretty much it says, when considering quotations forgotten Dallas Cowboys versus Green Bay plays, the holding call when the Cowboys were driving for the win stands out. So it's hashtag don't forget these. And it's just, to me, it's a fucking excuse coming from the Dallas Cowboys PR team, putting out there that pretty much the refs are the reason why we lost this game. And then the third piece is that the Dallas Cowboys are actually opening as a 2-point favorite in Minnesota next week. What the fuck? And they fucked up. They said Minnesota 8-1 has the best record in the NFC. That's cap. The Philadelphia Eagles had the best.
Is this Dallas Cowboys official Twitter?
Yeah, right here. Not the one for the favorite. Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, this is this is the one that got 4.3 million followers. Do you need this? I could send it to you. But the other one's coming from NBC5 Pat Doney, and that's the one that says that the Cowboys are opening up as 2-point favorites. If that is the case, if the Cowboys just lost to the fucking Packers, who just lost to the fucking Lions, and the Minnesota Vikings just beat the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen playing in overtime in Buffalo, I'm done with Vegas. I don't know. How does that make sense, bro? I don't understand how it makes sense.
That line will move. I wouldn't even stress it. It's probably an early line. They're just trying to get out there to get some because I don't see how that's even possible.
Unless they know something that we don't.
Yeah, I mean, unless
they know.
The only thing is a key player being out, but a key player that they would, because I mean, you figure a home team already gets 3 points for being home. So right now it's a 5-point swing in Dallas's favor.
That's crazy. Where do they get off, dude? Dak threw 2 picks today. And they did Tony Pollard, 22 for 115 and touchdown. He played pretty good. CeeDee Lamb balled out. And Dak played pretty decent. But, bro, they lost. You lost to the Packers. It wasn't at home. I might have said it was at home. It was in Lambeau. So I want to make sure I correct myself there. But you fucking blew it. Not only did you choke away a 14-point lead, but you got the ball first in overtime. And you still lost. And now I'm supposed to look at this line and not think anything.
I mean, Tom, if I was you, I would put out this line right away for your lock of the week.
Lock of the week.
+2.
Fucking double up.
I don't see Dallas winning in Minnesota at all.
I don't see Dallas winning, period, like you said. But
yeah,
I'm just sick of maybe it's the Americans team thing, but I don't understand how they're getting the respect that they are. They're sitting at 6-3 now, and it's disgusting. It's disgusting. I don't like it.
This is going to make me want to start looking into why there are 2-point favorites in Minnesota.
Please,
one team.
Like that. When we come on,
is mind-boggling.
When we come on Thursday to give a Thursday 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to preview, to talk about the Eagles, of course, that'll be our final segment tonight is the Monday Night Football. But when we get on here to kind of talk about that stuff, it's I want to know. And you're the betting guy. Well, you used to be. You're not a betting guy, but you know more. And what I mean by that is you know more about the betting world than I do.
What's weird though, it's like, so before, like, even going back to the Bills game with the Vikings, before they fully activated Josh Allen, Vikings opened up as 3.5-point dogs, right?
Dogs, yep.
So Josh Allen, it comes over across Twitter from Shefty. Josh Allen's active. That line jumped immediately from 3.5 to 6.5. But before kickoff today, the line went from 6.5 to 4.5 right at kickoff.
There had to be something that came out that maybe Josh wasn't feeling too good.
I think it was more so like when they came. Remember when I put in a group chat that everybody was out on the field for warm-ups, but one person, that was Josh Allen.
Which made
it seem like, all right, well, they activated him. Are they playing mind games? Are they really going with Case Keenum, or is Josh Allen really going to play?
Yeah,
I just don't know. No. I didn't see any key injuries in either game. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, listen, Vegas knows more than everybody. Vegas will never lose money.
Vegas knows all, baby. They don't lose money because of their juice, though. But they set pretty good fucking lines a lot of the time. But it's all numbers. It's popular numbers that it lands on, 3, 7, whatever. But yeah, I do find it. I just don't understand how the fucking Cowboys are gonna roll into Mini They're not in Dallas. How they're going to go into Minnesota as 2-point favorites after what we've seen this week, and I think it's a little crazy. I don't know. I think that to answer the question I asked D, I don't think that this loss is extremely detrimental to the Cowboys. It happens, right? But for the Packers, I think this is a game. I don't think this is the game to send them trending in the right direction. They might need one more. They did just come off of a 5-game losing streak. But this is a chance. This is a chance for them to kind of maybe try to go on a run. Maybe try to go on a run over the next couple of weeks. They got some tough opponents coming, and I don't want to see them get hot because they got the Titans on Thursday Night Football this week. So we get to see another quick turnaround. They got a chance to punch it in. And then if they're able to beat the Titans and kind of go and they're going to be home again, if they can beat the Titans, get some momentum, and then they get 10 days off before they come to Philly. I don't like that. I don't want this team getting, I don't want this team getting momentum and then 10 days rest to prepare for a game that you already know they're going to give their best for. And the target's on Philly's back, and every team's going to get up for them. That's how I feel it. All right. So
there's got to be something weird about that line.
I love Derek. I love it that I love it that
it's because it's just boggling my mind. So last year they actually played each other on Halloween. The score was 20-16. What do you think? Dallas was 6-1 at that point. Minnesota was 3-4 at that point. What do you think the line was?
Was the game in Minnesota?
It was in Minnesota.
I would say Dallas 2, Dallas 3.
No, I would say Minnesota
plus.
No, I'm saying
Dallas favored it. Dallas
favored by 2.
I'd say I want to say Minnesota was favored.
Minnesota was favored by 4 points last year. Dallas had a record of 6-1, and the Vikings had a record of 3-4.
And who won by 4?
The Cowboys did.
Go fucking figure.
So what I'm hearing is Vegas don't know shit.
Vegas don't know something, or I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Dallas had a better record than them last year, and Minnesota was still favored by 4 at home. And this year, Minnesota is now underdogs by 2 at home. It just doesn't compute right. If you can find that line anywhere, I would jump all over it.
It's on there. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I see it too, but
I don't like it. Real quick before we jump into the Eagles and wrap up, this was something that Tom wanted me speaking back on the Buffalo Bills and the Vikings. So something that Tom was, I want to show everybody this. The catch of the year. What a fucking play. I didn't even see it live. I was out back at my father-in-law's house, and Derek ran like a hype school child, right? Yo, you gotta come see this. I run inside. It was 4th. I remember when I went outside, it was 4th and 18. So I heard everybody yelling. I was like, okay, they got the first down. And then I go in. Derek gets me. I go in and I get to watch as they're running that replay. I'm like, holy shit! And I want to throw that up real quick. Vicious.
Sick.
Vicious. And it did play the audio, so hopefully we don't get asked for that. But go ahead, Tom.
They did what every team should do. 4th and 18th, desperation play. You throw the ball up to your best playmaker, your best receiver. It's exactly what Kirk did. And Justin Jefferson he picked up Kirk's back, dude. He just said, you know what, Kirk? Throw me the ball. 4th and 18. I got your back. We're going to win this fucking game. And that's exactly what he did.
Bro, it was
great play.
It was impressive. Honestly, that was like, at first, my first glance at it, I was like, okay, so he just didn't get the ball. The defender caught the ball, and on the way down, he just ripped it out with one arm. But then it was like, no, he got his hand on, and it moved a little bit because the defender had 2 hands. But I feel like he controlled that ball. The defender definitely helped him control it a little bit. But it was all, that was my ball, and he was just. That dude balled the fuck out today. We were looking for him last week after, he hadn't seen the end zone a few times. And the last 2 weeks, he's just come back and he's shown that don't doubt them. Don't sleep on them.
Yes, sir.
But I want to jump into our final game that we're going to look at, which is the Monday Night Football game tomorrow. And I don't know how I forgot that we play tomorrow because I scheduled myself working late, but that's going to change. That's not going to happen. So Monday Night Football, the 8-0 Philadelphia Eagles are taking on the formerly known Boston Braves. They're taking on the Washington Commanders. And I am extremely confident that the Eagles are going to win the game. It's in Philly. It's prime time. I think that they're going to want to show that they're for real and just continue this streak. But it is a division game, and division games are tough. Division games are tough to call. They're tough to preview. Anything can happen, especially in the NFC East. So it would not shock me to see Washington come and put their best foot forward. We beat them up last time. Devontae Smith went off, but Carson Wentz was the quarterback, and Taylor Heineke I feel like he runs that team a little bit better. If anyone wants to answer, if there's a way that the Commanders could beat us, or is Philly going to roll?
I think this is the game where Philly is going to put the NFL football world, on the map, to where I don't think people think we are as good as we are.
Yeah.
And I think this is the spotlight where it's going to be like, no, we're for real. I mean, we really haven't tore up a team. We always let teams get back in the game for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So tomorrow the link will be rocking. It will. Not sure what uniforms we're wearing yet, but I can tell you this: they will win by double digits. And I think tomorrow is a game where Nick Sirianni, he's not going to let his foot off of the gas pedal. He's going to let the score run up because he knows people are coming out there on a Monday night, probably missing work the next day, or, got to wake up and go to work. So he's going to let his team put on a show. So I don't think there's any way the Commanders can win at all. I don't think it's a winnable game for them. I think they've had 2 nice weeks of where they played good football, but tomorrow they kind of come back down to reality, especially facing our defensive scheme right now.
I agree. Tom, what you got, bro?
I agree with everything Derek said. The link is going to be rocking with 67,000 fans in the seats.
Whew.
For a Monday Night Football game. 67,000.
Yeah.
That stadium is going to be vibrating. That stadium is going to be rocking. Nick Sirianni knows it. Jalen Hurts knows it. Jalen Hurts has played good football in primetime football so far this year. And like Derek said, I think they're going to play this week, they're going to play 4 quarters of football.
I would love to see 4 quarters of football from our boys because we haven't, as good as they've been. That's the one thing that we haven't seen is we haven't seen the 4 quarters of football. And I do believe that it's something that, this team, they got to give us something, right? But Washington, man, despite what we did to them last time we played, they got a pretty decent defense. They're not like, I like to look at PFF and they got a color coordination to where blue is like really good. The different shades of green are good, and then it's yellow, orange, and red. And they're across the board. They're different shades of green and some yellows, and they got some blues. Meaning, I've looked at the stats before, but even here, I don't really see too much of a weakness on their PFF grades, with the exception of maybe their run defense. So maybe you look to see Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders go, and that for me is, if that's going to be the game plan coming into it, then I think you're going to see a tighter game. I think you're going to see one of those classic Eagles games where it's going to be a nail biter to the end, and maybe the Eagles have control, but they're still gonna make you think, right? So where if they come out and they're able to establish the pass, because I think they're gonna run regardless. If they're able to come out and Jalen's on point, Washington does have a really pretty good pass rush, but their coverage is kind of suspect. All right, I have them in the bottom 15 of the league in coverage. That might be a little mean, but it's just I don't think that they traded away corners recently. I just don't think they got the defense that they should. And I think that the link, and this is the last point I want to touch on. Tom said the link's going to be rocking, and I got an interesting thing that I think is going to play kind of a role in this. This is the coming out party, I think, for the Philadelphia Eagles with the city of Philadelphia. And I do think Derek's right. I think that they're going to be looking. Buffalo takes the loss, and Minnesota's looking like the hot team. But if Philly can come out and get another statement win, we already beat Minnesota, right? And then Philly, the last time that anybody has seen a Philadelphia crowd, we were losing game 5 of the World Series, and then we go and we lose game 6, right? So the fans, it's felt like this 8-0 run has been kind of overshadowed by what the Phillies were able to do. And now it's the Sixers I know Joel's balling out right now, but the Sixers are underperforming, and they got questions that, whether their head coach is staying and everything. But the Eagles are now the soul. They're the hype of the city. So the fans coming off the World Series, this is the first game that they're going to be able to unleash, and kind of all eyes are on the Eagles. There's no more distractions. It's Philly, it's Washington, and we always show up. And I think that I think the Eagles are gonna show up and give the city something to really be like, okay, if they win this game tomorrow, you're gonna hear more hype coming out on Tuesday morning on the radio shows and from us on Thursday than you've heard all season, because it's not they could win by 1 or they could whoop up on the Commanders, and it's not necessarily about the opponent. It's just about they've been overshadowed for real. I don't know how an 8-0 team can get overshadowed in a city like Philly, but we had a team in the World Series, so it did happen.